Recording in
So let's get
progress.
going here. Yelm Senior Center. Come on up. Tell us what's going on.
Mayor and City Council people. I'm the volunteer director of the Yelm Senior Center. And we currently have 237 members. And I can't say how many of them live within the Yelm city limits, but 154 of them live in the 98597 area zip code. And the rest of our members, most of them are from Roy, McKenna, and Rainier. And on an average, we have 727 people signing in every month to take part in the things that we offer. And in addition to our members, we serve the members' families, because if you have aging parents or if you're aging yourself, you think about your parents and what they have to do. And a lot of the families of the members we have are happy that they know their parents have a place to come in and be involved. And have peace of mind too. And our specific needs are funds to keep our doors open, because I myself am a volunteer as are all of our instructors. So the money that we need is basically to pay monthly expenses, which average about $3,000. So, and as for, I submit a report to the city every month telling who comes and why they come. And so I think I could fulfill the requirement. We offer a CPR class that's free to the public every year, and we supply meals to our members, but if guests come, we allow them to eat also. We have acted as a cooling center in the past. We coordinate that with Thurston County. If they need us to be, we're available. And our membership dues, our building usage, fundraisers or grants and donations, and then what we get from the city is what supports our center. So, do you have any? I did put a handout because I always forget stuff. So, but this has everything. Does anybody have any questions, Brian?
Oh, just my understanding, the monthly expenses being 3,000. You're requesting from the city approximately.
We're asking for 21,000 this year.
Okay.
And if we get less, we're grateful for whatever we get. If we get it all, that's wonderful. If we don't, that's still wonderful. So.
Correct me, are we currently at 12,000 a year for the senior center?
18. So it'd be an increase of like 3,000 a year.
So you're just asking for additional
Right.
3,000 a year above what you currently get.
Right.
It's basically what this ask is for. Is that correct? We're asking for above that amount.
No, I'm asking for 21,000 for the whole year.
Okay, for combined with what
For the whole year.
for everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks for having me.
Joel.
Can you come back to me? I didn't know I was supposed to email my presentation. Please.
I'll let it slide. Jennifer, rebuilding Thurston, together Thurston County.
Rebuilding Together Thurston County, yes. That presentation,
Slide show.
which I will probably speak way too clearly through. So I apologize for that.
Okay.
You'll have to stop me or ask questions at the end. All right, Jennifer Ferguson. Today I am here in front of the mayor and the city council on behalf of Rebuilding Together Thurston County. I am the board president of the nonprofit. Our motto is repairing homes, revitalizing communities, rebuilding lives. And we've been active in Thurston County and Yelm since 2003. So just hit our 21st anniversary. Thanks. Next slide. 12%, historically 12% of the households we've served are in Yelm. This is the first time, I believe, that rebuilding has requested funds from the city of Yelm to expand what we're doing so far. Of the 46 homes, we've helped 77 individuals, so it's about 1.5 persons per, little over 1.5 persons per household. 56 have had disabled residents, 22 seniors were able to help them so they can age in place. 8 had a veteran or a surviving spouse of a veteran in the household. 29 children and 53 women who are often low income and single. Next slide, please. With the city of Yelm, what we have found over 20 years is that the repairs requested, we tend to see more repairs requested per household, and those repairs tend to be more expensive due to both the age of the homes being older than what we see in our traditional or typical applicants, as well as longer home ownership before the homeowner actually gets around to requesting help from us. Our most frequent, next slide, please. Our most commonly requested repairs are plumbing issues, so septic tanks for those homes that are outside of city septic. Water heater tank replacements, including those that end up falling through floors because they've been leaking for a very long time. Faucet repairs, drain issues, leaking pipes, both in the walls and under the floors. Next slide. What else do we do? Safety modifications or ADA modifications, grab bars, handrails, ADA toilets, wheelchair ramps, tub modifications, allowing disabled folks and our seniors to stay in their home. Exterior stair and deck repairs, new flooring to repair or remove trip hazards, and to repair damage due to the plumbing leaks, as well as gutter replacements, siding, and replacement, repair and replacement of roofs. Most of the work is done by over 100 community volunteers who assist us, those both unskilled like me, who can wield a hammer and a paintbrush, weed eater, as well as, and then we have our skilled volunteers, those who are actual contractors who come to us as plumbers, electricians, and builders. We also have more than 20 committed contractor and supply partners. Several of them reside and have businesses here in the city of Yelm. And who helps fund the work in Thurston County and Yelm? We receive municipal grants from the county, as well as cities of Tumwater, Lacey, and Olympia. We have our annual fundraising programs. Our largest is the Build It Breakfast, and I think a couple of you have attended that in the past. We receive funding from local nonprofit foundations and tribes, as well as individual donors. And then how do we find our applicants? A large number of them are from referrals. There's very little outreach that we have to do. Catholic Community Services, our local churches, the Community Action Council, veteran service organizations, South Puget Sound Habitat for Humanity. We work with them on certain projects. We send them projects. They send us the ones they can't do. And then with the funds that we hope to receive from the city of Yelm, we've done postcard campaigns in the past that we've been able to use unrestricted county funds on, but we'll be able to target specifically other homes in Yelm that we think might qualify. Outreach through Yelm School District to capture some of the children in homes that need help. The Chamber of Commerce, of course, and online marketing. So with the help of the city of Yelm, how do we define our successes? We actually keep track of the number of homes with disabled residents, the number of critical repairs that need to be completed. So these are repairs where safety is an issue. the number of low-income households we serve, households with veterans, and the numbers of seniors. That's it. Thank you. Any questions, Joe?
Yeah, so I was wondering, because I know from my understanding, most of, even the contractors themselves, it's all volunteer. They don't necessarily get paid. I know a lot of this, so there's a lot of the funding go to like materials.
Yeah, the bulk of the funding goes towards materials. We do have 2 very part-time staff, and then we have an inspector that we pay to do the site inspections. But yeah, the majority of the budget is assigned to materials and then paying those.
A lot of volunteer work.
A lot of volunteer, over 5,000 hours were provided in volunteer hours last year.
How much, would you, do you think that you spent last year on repairs? Repairs, this, you know, the money you spent on this, like doing the actual work?
I looked at the budget this today, but I didn't capture that number. I can get it back to you guys for sure.
Jennifer, on your chart of numbers, you had 46 homes, but there were way more people under that. So are you counting individuals in the home or?
Yeah, so for some of those individuals in there, if it was a senior and someone who was a veteran, then that would fall under the veteran and the senior. So that's why the numbers don't add up to the 77 individuals that we had.
Thank you.
And just, I loved your presentation on, just out of curiosity, what is it that what would be what you're looking for amount wise? And also,
We've requested a substantial amount, 100,000, the maximum I think that might be available. This would allow us to serve, we project at least 7 homes. I know that we have 4 currently that I've seen recently that we cannot serve because we don't have the unlimited funds to serve Yelm. But yeah, we project 7 homes. We will, of course, gladly and appreciatively accept anything offered. Any other questions?
Would you be able to submit, specialized, like specific projects?
Absolutely. Yep.
So just like a general amount, say, hey, we have this house here, this house here, this house here, you know, we need this amount for this one, this one, this one.
Yeah.
Just to make it more of, like, yeah, I'm connected with Yelm, instead of just a general that just goes into the pot and it's all Thurston County, but it's more like, yeah, these are specific Yelm projects.
Rebuilding together, the application is very lengthy and there's a lot of specific information in there. What the homeowner is asking for, what the site inspector finds, which often includes much more than what they're requesting, and that's all verified in our system.
And make sure to talk to me later.
Are you offering to volunteer, Josh?
I have materials. I have more materials than I have time.
Good. Appreciate it. Great. Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Heidi, bounties for families? Oh, and
Not Heidi,
Not
you get the next best thing.
That's right.
Good evening, council and mayor. I'm your city planner for the city of Yelm, but tonight I am putting on my volunteer hat and representing Bounty for Families and the Gift of Gobble.
And I am Terry Malone, and I'm with Yelm Community Schools. I'm the communications director and now the community relations person who in the past has served in this role, but I'm also a Bounty for Families board member. So we're here on behalf of that entire group to talk to you a little bit about what we do for holiday meals in our community. And we're focusing on the holiday meals of Thanksgiving.
This feels like a Shark Tank.
I know, it does.
no, let's say the exact
But
same thing.
we're going to do a little dance. Look, one back.
There's a pause here, so it's.
Oh,
A little leg. There we go. So Bounty for Families, with the support of local businesses, have supported Thanksgiving meals for 14 years. And in the last 2-3 years, we've really, worked with our local businesses to reduce costs by purchasing in bulk and reducing storage costs by using the grocery outlet back warehouse area. And we have volunteers that actually there's a lot of people in the room that have helped put those bags together. And we do that all at grocery outlet and have a huge number of employees from OB Credit Union that come from multiple different branches to come support this program. Do you want to?
Yeah, and another part of this is that really we're looking at how do we serve the families in our community that may fall in a gap. They may not qualify for other services. They may just not have those resources to celebrate the holidays. And so this has kind of been brought together by the families that we serve in the school district and from the community that are referred. So we'll talk a little bit about how we come up with the families and how they represent across the community. But Bounty for Families is really, it started to try to build a community garden, but it's really been, again, you can see a little bit of our mission there is cultivating a healthy community. And so wanting to make sure that our family is not only healthy by what they eat, but by what they experience and how they feel. So it's really been a joy to bring these two groups together and serve them in a very effective and efficient way. Next slide, please.
And through the Gift of Gobble, we serve 100 families. So it's the 100 families for Gift of Gobble plus the 200 from the school, which Terry will get to. And how we get those families are from recommendations from friends, family, local organizations, churches, local residents, and then a significant portion is also dedicated to military families in Yelm.
And then next slide for the school district, we have our counselors work with the families in our schools and we get nominations and referrals as the counselors identify them. We try to do about 20 families per school, give or take. And if they don't have them, we'll give to the other schools. And so you can imagine the high school has way more students than the elementaries, but we also find that there's a lot of students who have crossover siblings. So we shoot for about 200 and based on the enrollment and the schools that are in the boundaries of Yelm City. And then as they go through the middle schools and the high schools, we are about probably over 50% of the students, so over 100 students who are Yelm residents that would be served by this. And again, as I mentioned, this is only for Thanksgiving. We try to repeat this again for Christmas. And so, or the holidays that they celebrate. And the part to this right now, and what we had mentioned is 14 years of doing this. This has all come through personal donation or business donations that have wanted to sponsor this. And everybody is getting a little bit more challenged to provide those services and those donations. So this would be very helpful for them. Next slide, please.
All right, so our costs are roughly about $45 per meal, and it varies, goes up and down year to year. That's probably what we're looking at for this year. So the 300 families, we're looking at roughly $13,500.
I think our original ask was 12,000. So we have some money that has been left over from last year that carried over. So that's why it wasn't for the full amount. And then just really when it comes down to it, it's the local businesses that have reduced that cost as much as possible. Grocery Outlet has done an amazing job of getting bulk rates for us. Not only that, but deferring the fact that we get to store everything there, as Andrew said. Walmart has also contributed quite a bit to donation of items and materials. And then it comes from our community. Pretty much the OB Credit Union, I swear they must shut down their business because they fill the room and stuff the bags and get everything ready and they deliver it for us. So, and then again, some individual volunteers that come throughout the community. But again, this is locally driven. This is by our businesses, by our people who live in our community and for the students and families in our community.
And another thing that's great is, so the volunteers come and pack it and they also bring it to where it needs to go. So we're trying to meet people where they're at as much as we possibly can. Rent it and working with the city of Yelm and having people come and grab their meals at the community center and the volunteers dropping them off at each individual school so the parent can come in and grab their meal there. So a place that they're all comfortable with.
Next slide. And this is kind of really our timeline. So we secure our funding in September. When you start thinking about Thanksgiving, you don't think about September, you think about November, but it really does. We need to secure our funding in September so that we can have all the families identified by October. And so that's a really big outreach process. And then if there is any leftover or gap that we need to fill, 507 has been a great partner in this. They've allowed us to use that as a fundraising location and to come in and do a gift of gobble donation night. So they do that every year for us for the last 14 years. So again, trying to bring back to the community, and then we pack and distribute all within that week before the holiday. Next slide.
And you are aware, Terry, this would be for next year's. It would be appropriated for next year, not for this year.
Okay, it's good to know.
I was wondering that same thing. I'm like, oh.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. So we just thought we'd bring a comment from somebody who was impacted by this. And that's the reactions you see from people when we deliver that meal to those families. And this is kind of what we were saying earlier, is that there is a gap for some families who are working hard and trying to make ends meet. And then to just see the joy that she shared with us, that it is sometimes tough, and to know that your child may not get to celebrate a holiday. And this was something that took a little stress off of her and was able to make that very a memorable experience for her children. So those are the reasons we do a lot of the stuff we do. So thank you for clarifying that. And we are speaking on behalf of the Bounty for Families, so they probably did know that. Just want to answer any questions that you might have.
I just want to make a comment too, because, sometimes when holidays come around, a lot of people aren't excited about holidays for that reason. But the fact that you guys are doing that really brings hope back to the community. And thank you for what you do. And beyond that, I thought the PowerPoint presentation was very, very done well. I like the little, I was like, oh, this is cool. I can follow this. So thank you for making it very well presented. So
Thank you. Any other questions?
So thinking for next year, 13.5 is kind of your budget, like.
Absolutely. That's each year we roll into that. And we've done, honestly, Greg has just done a great job of being able to bring down the cost. So I would anticipate that, $45 to $50 per meal will still be about the same. Costs had gone up for quite some time, and he's been able to stabilize that for us. So this, again, knowing that it would be for next year allows us to be able to know what fundraising we need to do. And in a time right now where our community is giving a lot, it'd be nice to not say that we have to come back again next year. Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate your time.
EFD, Old Sports Development. Is it Philip?
It is.
Okay.
So were you expecting somebody else?
James.
Yeah, for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Phil Vogel. I'm the president, founder of Total Sports Development. And I say that that's pretty new because we're a DBA of Tornadoes Youth Football and Cheer that most people know here in Yelm. So I have 500 kids waiting for me at the field right now. It's football practice, cheer practice right now. And so, yeah, I came in front of you guys partially because we saw a need. When I started Total Sports, it wasn't for the need that I just did in Saving C-Team Sports. It's just not why we started it. I started Total Sports because we were part of Thurston County Youth Football League. And every time we went and fundraise, or I would go to a tribe or so forth and get funds, sometimes some of those funds would have to be appropriated towards Thurston County Football League. So they're taking a portion of what we were trying to give back to our own kids. So the board and I just said, well, why don't we do this ourselves then? And it's been a couple-year process. For those of you that don't know, it's not super easy to go out and start a 501c3 and be federally licensed. There's a lot of lawyers and a lot of money to do that, but that was funds that my partners and I just brought out of our own pockets and said, let's just do this over a period of time. You can go ahead and change slides. That's the only one I give you. No. We can kind of go off the script. There we go. In Thurston County, there are not a lot of indoor sports facility. I think that's probably the only one around here. So there, we see a very large need for our kids. It gets cold, and I run a competitive sevens football team in the off season. We have competition cheer that'll start after sideline cheer's over, and those spaces are in need, and especially as I sit in a school district office and negotiate contracts with Mr. Woods, and seeing what that fee structure is about to happen, it's going to directly impact a lot of organizations that utilize school property. Where when you were a 501c3 in the past, you got to use those facilities for free, and you would have a bathroom or maintenance fee. Now that's going to go to $50 to $75 an hour every time you utilize indoor space. So there's not only myself, there's other organizations here in Yelm that are probably going to be knocking on everybody's door asking for funding, because everybody's costs are going to go through the roof with that failed levy that affected everybody. So the levy's huge. But many kids in our community, as you guys have seen, are going off to college and so forth, and we want to kind of keep that rolling. I work hand in hand with a lot of the high school coaches that allow us to start to implement plays, to give you an example. So that way, when kids walk in the door, it's not French to them. They're starting to hear some of the lingo, not all of it. You can't teach a third grader everything, but I say it's nice to see. And myself, I have a son going in as a freshman this year that's light years ahead of somebody that hadn't gone through our program. You can go ahead and change slides, please. So again, we're a year-round sports organization. Eventually, the long-term goal, everybody's probably heard the rumors, and so I'll settle those rumors. Yes, the long-term goal is to put an indoor sports facility here in Yelm. I would like it to be in the city limits of Yelm. That partly affects our local athletes. And we know in building it, we're going to bring some revenue into Yelm. Last year, we had a 7-on-7 tournament where we had 100 football teams not from Yelm come into Yelm, and the likes of Pirelli said, thank you very much, right? The local businesses really feel that impact. We will have 2 of those this year. We'll have a tackle football tournament in November where it'll be a little more, it'll be 30 teams will come in. That's a longer play time. And then next calendar year, we'll have 2 additional 7-on-7 tournaments. That'll be about 100 teams apiece come in, and where I rent all of the fields at the high school. And we have teams from Oregon, California, Alaska, Hawaii that all fly in to play in these regionalized tournaments like that. So we just see that added cost coming towards everybody. Initially, when we started to look at this, we were starting to look at how do we fund C-team sports, and we did that 7-day fundraiser that raised a whole bunch of money. So our benefit for C-team sports is we're almost halfway there to fund next year's C-team sports. So we have a nice little head start on that. I think we have $25,000. But as you guys know, I told the public that that's where the money would go, and that's where the money will go. And that money is in a separate bank account at a separate bank. It doesn't mix with our day-to-day banking within Total Sports. And that money set aside for C-team sports next year until hopefully we can fix the problem we have here in Yelm. You can go ahead. Again, we'll just run over some of this. I have 500 kids in Yelm that would directly be affected by this. As of right now, I just got my bill from Thurston County Youth Football. I owe them $15,000 for this year for scholarships and so forth. Historically, it's been a little easier for us to scholarship children because Thurston County allowed me to bill the kids, and then I can have them slow pay, or they could pay me over a period of time. And this year they took over the ordering process. So the parents just had to pay, or I had to pay up front. So the team would have to pay up front for a child's uniform. To give you an example, a cheer uniform, they'd have to pay $150 for registration and another $300 for their uniform. That's difficult on a lot of parents, especially in our community. So that was something to where we as an organization then had to front that money so these kids can come out every Saturday and play 8 games. It's a pretty short season. We only get an 8-game season. You'll see a couple thousand kids running through the streets over the next 8 weeks here in Yelm. So again, everything that we do, I have over 100 volunteers that volunteer for our organization, all background checked and so forth. All fees that we pay, like we pay for the background checks and so forth, they have to pay their $20 for theirs. But there's other classes like USA Football and so forth that we pay for our volunteers. And that's all costs that go into our day-to-day that just we incur in order to, it's hard to ask somebody to pay another $50 for a class when they're volunteering hundreds of hours within your organization. I have them, at least all of my coaches, 3 days a week for 2 hours a day, every day, teaching kids how to play football or cheer. Other than that, I appreciate you guys letting me come forward. And any questions?
Yeah, I have a question for you. You had mentioned you have to rent the facilities from the school district.
Yes.
Was that something you had to do last year, rent the facilities?
At a much lower cost, yes. There's always been an associated cost for anybody that wanted to use school facilities. We had typically worked in a contract. So when I'm talking about Thurston County football, because I have multiple contracts within the school district, that is a contract. So we pay X amount for, we rent all of the fields, we have the stadium on Saturdays and so forth. So that's a singular contract. And then with Total Sports, it is a completely separate contract. Although we're under the same surname or the same DBAs, that is a separatized contract that we negotiate just for our football season, to where all the other sports will go into separate contracts.
Every time you use the school facility, you have to rent it.
Every time. Yes, sir.
Sir, with Total Sports Development, your 501(c). With in mind, if a youth wants to be part of the program, what is their cost and all?
It depends. We'll scholarship everything from 100% to 50%. We try to treat that on a case-by-case basis. We have an approval process that somebody can fill out an application that says, you know, what are circumstances are you? Sometimes I heard somebody say single mother. We have a lot of that to where, you know, infected households. I have a kid that plays for me that's abused. So we try to treat each one separately and understand each individual needs. Some people may just need $50 or $100 until payday, and that's fine. And we'll try to give them that $100. And some people need full scholarships. This has been hands down since I took over Thurston County Youth Football. We've given out the most amount of scholarships we ever have this calendar year.
Yeah, you mentioned the rumors of you building and stuff like that. So where, because you get wrapped up in those rumors and stuff. So where are you guys at right now with building your facility? Because I think I saw, something online or something.
Saw some plans. So
Yeah, so where are you at with that?
we've done some feasibility studies on a few different pieces of properties. So the board's looking at that and going back to our financial investors, because this would be all out of town money. We have some great contacts within the NFL world that would really love to see an indoor facility. When we talk about an indoor facility, you're talking something where if you would take Yelm High School, we're all familiar with that. You take everything from the track in. So it's roughly 600 feet long and 400 feet wide. It is what's deemed a temporary structure, but it's temperature climate controlled. And so we would like it to be right here in Yelm. It's just beneficial to us on a personal level. We know we already know we've had a huge impact. We had 52 kids from outside of Yelm come in and try out for our 7-on-7 football teams this year. So to see that come out from outside of Yelm was great. And the great thing is we didn't turn down one Yelm kid to play for us. So that's been nice.
So we just still looking at feasibility on a couple of properties and nothing like in the works to build yet. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Do you have an estimated ETA of build scheduled timeline or?
I mean, if you guys want to gift me a whole bunch of property, then yeah, I mean, we can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I got less than an acre and it's not big enough, but.
Yeah, I mean, so our team has looked at a couple different scenarios. A couple scenarios would be we take a lesser property and put temporary structures as far as having the ability of putting 100 by 200 foot type buildings and have the ability to move some sports, but not all sports indoors. To give you an example, like the Twisters Wrestling just folded under and joined Total Sports Development. That organization where typically you would pay like $180 to wrestle, that fee now to Yelm Middle School is $75 an hour, where they used to get that for $25 a night. Now you're you're $75 for the first hour and $50 for each additional hour. That's for a nonprofit to utilize school property moving forward, starting September 1st, a couple days ago. So once that's gone in effect, that's going to affect like the local basketball organization where you used to be able to pay. My kids all played for it. It's like $150 to play basketball. We're going to see those fees skyrocket for individuals.
So a couple years out,
Yeah, I would love to tell you next year, but yeah, we're a couple years out.
5-year probably.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Okay, yeah, Mr. Woods.
I think Brian may have been before.
In reference to, because you said you were with Thurston County and now Total Sports is with, is it Yelm specific or Yelm Community Schools? And how many of the kids would you say, estimate of Yelm?
All of our TCYFL kids are Yelm Community School kids, all 500. So we had 271 football players, 100 and so my math is that could a little less than 500, 180-ish cheerleaders this year, all down at the high school right now, as a matter of fact. All of those are Yelm Community Schools. TCYFL, Thurston County Football, follows the school guidelines. So whatever school you're zoned for, that's who you play football for. There is a couple children that might be the exception of, we allow them if their parent is a teacher within our school district, they can play football for us. So that way the parent doesn't have to try to get their student back over to North Thurston, to give you an example, because they live over there. So we do allow that within our bylaws, but all of my children are from Yelm or within the Yelm School District.
Oh, that, well, I was just wondering, for funding wise.
Yeah, I'm curious, you mentioned that they're raising the price for the fields out there for you as well. Is there a lot of demand by other organizations for those fields? There is.
There is. You have Nisqually Soccer utilizes YMS typically, and the school district could probably answer this much better than I can, so don't quote me, please. You have the basketball organization that uses all the gyms. You have other baseball organizations that utilize school property. I know the one utilizes Longmire. But outside of that, you have individualized teams. You have the wrestling. So there's other sports out there for sure that utilize this space. The number I thought I saw somewhere was by raising those fees, the district would raise somewhere in the neighborhood of the tune of 60,000. But please ask Chris. Don't quote me on that number. But I feel like that was the number that they expected to raise by raising their fees.
Is there, by you guys using the facilities, is there a lot of additional maintenance and upkeep on the fields or on the gymnasium or anything?
I would say the biggest thing is probably trash. We're talking about youth children. I mean, they don't.
You guys.
We try to do our best to clean up, but they have the school policy is they have to hire a janitor.
Okay.
So they are hiring a janitor anytime. Right now, to give an example, I'm an outdoor facility. A janitor's not hired. Saturdays, we hire a janitor. So we pay $1,000 a Saturday to use the field.
What was it prior?
It's always been $1,000.
Field's always been $1,000. That's not going up. It's $1,000.
Well, it'll go up next year.
So is that, you say $1,000, is that per season or is that
$1,000 per day typically?
per use?
Per use, because by time we're there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., so it's a 12-hour day, football playing all day long. So it's a pretty long day for janitors to come in and they have to stay. They're there, and I think an hour or two before us and 2 hours after us.
Outside facilities we're talking about?
Yeah, the main stadium.
Right.
So that's what we would use on a Saturday. That's pretty atypical. And then where this year, to give you an example, this year we're able to use outdoor facilities for no cost. Next year, there will be an associated cost.
So this is brand new.
This is brand new. Next year, the district, with the levy failure, what the district has done, and next year, that cost goes to that $50 an hour to utilize the field.
Does that include locker rooms? Okay, so this is just, okay.
And then, just another question in reference to the kids. I, having been here for a while, have actually seen Yelm high school football develop greatly, and talking with a few people that I knew that were involved with the youth program, they said one of the big reasons is because of the youth football that these youths are doing that, and now we're starting to see some getting to some of the big colleges like the Ducks and more to the Huskies, hopefully.
I'm a duck, don't hit me.
But that is from your organization, football specifically, because I know wrestling was doing the same thing, that they were getting scholarships. So whatever we invest into your organization now is not only football, but also wrestling and baseball and some other sports that we are actually helping youth prepare themselves for the college, the NCAA.
Exactly. We had a couple hundred kids come out for track this year. It was a brand new thing. The track coach said, let's get some track rolling. And I said, okay, let's do it. Rented the facilities, and we had hundreds of kids. TSD made absolutely, I think I lost money on the deal because it was like $20 to show for speed night, or so $10 or something like that. But it when you look at it as a total growth aspect in getting the kids, I mean, the times are gone when I got on my bike when I was these kids' age and I rode 8 miles down to the lake. I wouldn't let my son do that tomorrow. So there is a big change. But to your point, to give you an example, at 6th grade, I require the coaches to run at least a portion of the high school playbook. I personally am a coach of a 2nd and 3rd grade team. We have 14 plays, and all 14 are from the high school playbook. I just have to pick certain plays because I can't get a 3rd grader to understand certain aspects of a football field. But to your example, yes, we work hand in hand with the high school staff, whether it's cheer, whether it's the wrestling coach, whether it's football and baseball, we're hand in hand with all of them to ensure we're trying to teach them to be ready for that next level. And then hopefully that next coach is teaching them to be ready for Oregon or Washington.
Because the reason why I'm really trying to understand this is because used to be Parks and Recreation. That was where kids got into testing the various sports they wanted to get into. And it is actually converted into a pay for play kind of thing. And a lot of people can't afford it. And so I'm just making sure that we're actually offering something that's a combination of the two.
Exactly correct.
Thank you.
So it's not just sports in general, it's beyond that, it's a culture.
It really is. It does come down to a culture. You have to buy in. I mean, I drank the Kool-Aid at Yelm football. Trust me. It's like you have to buy into that in order to get through to your coaching staff. If I don't believe it, they're not going to believe me when I'm back coaching with them. But then also, if you don't believe it, the kids aren't going to. Right. The kids notice really quickly when coaches say, oh, I got to make a change because it's not working. And so, yeah, if you're not bought into the program, it's definitely a lot different. I will tell you, people call us a cult out in Yelm. We're now considered a little bit like Tumwater in the sporting scene because they're cult-like. When you show up to Yelm, we're really loud and we're very passionate. I say that in all the nicest ways. Tumwater is a lot in the same. You go out to a Tumwater football game, very loud, very passionate people. So you are really buying into a culture.
Right. And it's one that has excellence and success and productivity. I mean, you're seeing this.
Hands down, we try to teach kids along the way accountability. If you don't show up for practice, you may not get as much play time, right? Now, if it's a parent not showing a kid up to practice, but we have kids, like I have a kid on my team right now. He's, Coach, I don't want to be here. I don't want to play. My dad's making me play. So then we have to figure out how to get through to said child and say, hey, buddy, you can be a great football player if you so want to be. Do you want to be this, or are you just here? And then it's funny that they'll start to open up and say, yeah, I'm here. I want to, but I'm not that good, or I need to learn more. And so then it becomes us as coaches to say, are we here just to win football games? And trust me, I want to win as much as everybody does, but there has to be a developmental stage. We are an 8-play organization. So within football, you are required to get 8 plays on every Saturday game. Now, if you missed the whole week of practice and you weren't here for installs, you can miss plays. So on my minor 2nd and 3rd grade team, I have 18 kids. They're all going to play 8 plays. They'll all play much more than 8 plays. Some of it, when you get a much more competitive, like 8th grade, they're getting ready to go to high school. If those kids aren't really ready to play, the coach is probably going to play them 8 plays.
But you're always working hand in hand with community, school district, and it's like a partnership.
It is. I have like Rob Hill's cell phone number on speed dial for me. I got a call from the district today that was like, oh, hey, you can't practice Thursday. We have a Thursday night game. So yeah, it's hand in hand with the district pretty heavily.
So I'm not a mom of boys that play sports, so this may be kind of an ignorant question, but really trying to understand the scope. So there's the school teams and then there's your teams?
So well, that's going to change a little bit now because they just canceled junior high football. So there would typically had been school teams and my teams, but now with junior high football canceled, there's no longer school team that competes with me. We don't offer high school level sports unless it's in the off season. So there is no direct competition between myself and a school team. Outside of maybe wrestling, but I'm not sure. Everything that we operate, we try never to go in the same season. What's happening within the sports world is year round. So if you're dedicated to an individual sport, to give an example, my son played football 12 months of the year last year. So even when football season is over, we went into training for a month. December, we played tournament ball where we travel around the West Coast playing 7-on-7 tournaments. That went directly into TCYFL 7-on-7 that went into high school football for him. And then now this year, he will play on the freshman team. He will play football. That season will end. We will directly go into 7-on-7 with Total Sports. And he will travel around for December, January, February, Marches, and then he'll go right into spring football. So he's either will be training, he'll get a month break here and there, but that's what a lot of kids are doing if you're trying to dedicate to a single sport. You still have a lot of kids out there that are like, no, I'm going to play baseball, I'm going to play football, I'm going to play soccer. They're multi-sport athletes, which is great, but you're seeing more and more kids just trying to singular. If they find out they're really good at a sport, they're going to stick to that said sport.
This is kind of a way that they can do that to play through the school and also keep building that development.
Exactly.
Okay. I think I'm catching on. My other question is, so you asked for 15,000. My mind is a little blown, as I think Tracy's was, with $1,000 for a day of renting a facility, which makes sense.
Don't let that number, because my contract at $1,000 a day, that includes me renting 3 days a week. So what the school district did last year and previously, they billed me $1,000 a day for Saturdays, and I'd be able to utilize my practice space because that was technically free. Okay. I'll let you guys know how next year's, if I feel like I need to start negotiating now that the school has a contract, next year's contract now, because there's a lot of changes coming to every organization out there of what can you get and what is that going to cost us? Because that contract, where my contract with the school district this year was $12,500, I have the feeling that's going to be $15,000, $18,000, $20,000, which is comparatively really good compared to other school districts. Tumwater, to give an example, is $1,400 a day to use their stadium. Other school districts, we're paying $20,000 for the season, where I'm paying $12,000. So we have a relatively really good contract in Yelm with the school district, which is great. So hopefully that doesn't get too out of whack. I will tell you, Thurston County football loved the contract we negotiate because it's the best within the county.
So that 15,000 then that you're asking would go towards each entity, or not entity?
No, I think the 15,000 I'm asking for would go directly to kids and to kids only.
Towards the fee.
We will take care of our facility fees. We will take care of all that. All this does is allow us to give another kid a scholarship at the end of the day. It allows us to help more. I don't know the numbers, but I think somebody told me that like 40-something% of kids in Yelm are free or reduced lunch. Well, those are the kids we're talking about, is the free and reduced lunch kids. Because as you guys, some of you may know, like if you're on free and reduced lunch at the high school level, you get your SB card for free and you get to play football for free, where otherwise it's $275 or $270 to play football this year. And so that's what we're more talking about, is those fees. We'll let the kids that can afford it to still pay. I mean, that's the benefit. And then it allows us to just take on more kids and give more scholarships. Yes. Any other questions? Perfect. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna go back to football practice.
Habitat for Humanity. Oh, I know. Let's see that last now, because he.
I'm sorry.
I didn't do a slide or anything. I read 3 to 5 minutes, so I wanted to keep it short and sweet. Last time I went over my 5 minutes and I got cut off, so we'll keep it sweet and simple. Well, good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Amanda Schuyler. I'm the Home Repair Program Manager at South Puget Sound Habitat for Humanity. In my experience, it seems that most people know about Habitat, that we build houses, we have our stores, we have one here in Yelm, as I'm sure most of you know. And all of that's true. We've built 84 homes since 1989. Now we have plans to build 164 affordable homes in Thurston County, 22 of those being here in Yelm. But it's also important to know, and that people in our community know about our critical home repair program. We help leaky roofs, plumbing issues, water damage, faulty electrical wiring, flooring that people like literally are falling through in their homes. So the first assessment when I started at Habitat was for a disabled veteran who has seizures and walks with a cane. He'd been hospitalized multiple times after falling, getting in and out of his shower, falling, trying to get up and down his front steps. And when I left that very first assessment, I was literally crying. It just broke my heart that people live in their homes in this manner. A few months later, I left that same house also crying because I'm emotional and like easily cry apparently. But this time I was crying because I was so happy because we were able to pull out a shower, pull out his tub and put in a walk-in shower. We added handrails going up and down his stairs, grab bars, and he was just so thankful, and he just changed his life in his home. Like that was a huge deal for me, and critical home repair has been my absolute favorite thing that we do at Habitat. We had another woman who was a domestic violence survivor. She was living in her home. There was a fire that sparked from her really old, bad electrical panel, started a fire, burned up half of her garage, made it so her whole house was without electricity. So we were able to go in, fix the electrical panel, fix the damage, restore her power. Because I don't know if you think about it, but in the wintertime, if you don't have power, like you have no lights, it gets dark super early. She had a lantern that she was using to walk around her house. She had to have a cooler that people brought her ice to keep her food cold so she could eat. She couldn't take a hot shower. She couldn't do dishes. She couldn't do laundry, none of this. Like if you ever really think about what it would be like if you lived for an entire year with no electricity, that is what this woman was doing. And she had lots of physical, mental, emotional issues that if you just drove by her house, you would have never known that she was living like that. And there are so many people who live in homes that you would just be heartbroken if you knew how they were living, but we don't know because people keep that a secret. They're not out on the street, like, you know, that's very obvious. We can see when there's homeless people, but we can't see what people are living with in their homes. And that is what we're here to do. We're here to fix those things that make houses unsafe, unlivable. Habitat has a strong belief. Our motto is everyone deserves a decent place to live. And so decent should mean you have power. It should mean that you can get up into your front door safely with a handrail so that you're not falling and then having an ambulance come and pick you up. This program is about 3 years old, so still not very many people know about it. Unlike Rebuilding Together, they've been around a long time. We do very similar work. Sometimes they refer to us for jobs that they can't do, and we do the same to them. Here in Yelm, we've helped about 11 people. It does get a little tricky trying to get people in the city limits with a new program, but our program has grown massively in the last year and a half since I've taken over. We've promoted it. I think in the first 2 years before I got there, we did 14 critical home care programs. Last year, we did over 50. So our program is growing, and with growing program means we need more money to be able to help more people. Right now, I've got 5 applicants that are just sitting, waiting for us to get more funding to be able to come and help in Yelm. So we anticipate with the money that we're requesting that we could help those 5 people plus about 3 to 5 more doing these type of projects that I gave examples of, plus other, again, roofing is a huge one, and that costs a lot of money to repair roofs. A lot of roofers won't just patch it or repair pieces of it.
they require us to do the whole thing. So those are easily $10,000. Plumbing needs get really expensive. These are a lot of older homes. So kind of, we might start with something and then find out that it costs more than what we thought, because that's plumbing for you. But anyways, that's what we do. That's what we're here to help with. We love Yelm. We've got a store here. We've got 22 homes that are going to be here soon. So the partnership with Yelm is really important to us, and we'd love to be here as much as we can be.
You mentioned the five houses here in Yelm. Are those here locally in Yelm?
Mhm.
And it's about $10,000 each for those houses?
That's what, yeah, I feel like the average. I mean, we definitely have anywhere from about 1,500, I think, is my lowest cost one here, and 13,000. So maybe a little bit less than 10,000, but again, roofs have been really popular, especially this time of year. So yeah, I would average about 10 for those. Yes.
So, speaking from a business mindset, you're a competing competitor to Rebuilding Together, Thurston County. Why should you be chosen over Rebuilding Together?
I don't say I should be chosen over them. I feel like we can all share a little bit.
Mine one or the other, you know, like,
Sure. Well,
come on, give me the.
we're gonna make this awkward. Well, I would say.
Business. I mean, that's what business is, you know?
Well, Habitat has a great reputation. We are well known. We have, I mean, again, with just the numbers and how much we've grown in just the last 3 years, I feel like the numbers speak for themselves. We tend to do some of the bigger projects because our structure is a little bit different versus their very volunteer based. So they'll do some of the smaller projects where we do kind of more the roofs and the big plumbing jobs. So we tend to do some of the more spendy things that take more of the contracted work than they'll do more of the volunteer abled job. So yeah, that's just something that makes us a little different.
So you do have to pay the contractors. You don't have as much volunteer stuff.
Correct. So therefore, we need more money. Yeah, any other questions?
Just a comment, I think that in my time here in Yelm, since you guys have shown up, you've been a real asset to our community, and I personally am thankful that you guys have come to be a part of what we're doing.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet. I'm very excited to be here. All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right, Joel. Take pity on you, we'll let you back up.
Email sent. Yeah, I might think.
I apologize for my lack of preparedness, Councilman. So I'm Joel Swanton, and I'm kind of doing something for Tina here. So special thanks to Tina for putting this together for us. I mean, there's a lot of really kind of neat organizations here. So ours is pretty simple, so I'm just going to run through it real quick. Our agenda is kind of what you guys put on the form for us to answer. So next slide, please. Kind of what we do. I think most of you know the chamber here. You know, our goal is here to just help communities, help businesses. It goes beyond that. All of these are pictures that we have taken at all the events. I think some of you guys might be in some of those too. So next slide, please. So at some of our bigger events here, we have about 120 businesses that are members of the chamber. That kind of comes and goes, obviously, month to month. But some of our biggest Prairie Days is hopefully growing. I enjoyed it quite a bit this year. And the barbecue rallies are by far our largest, but it brings in about 10,000 guests. And that's just an approximation. I think the city has helped with some of those numbers for us as well. And we invite pretty much everyone to our events too. So we want the community to grow and to build, to show, you know, compassion to really everyone. And that kind of starts with the businesses. It's kind of our mindset. Next slide, please. There's some cute kids there, by the way. I don't know if any of you know my children or not. I was not expecting that, just so you know. I think Tina did that on purpose. But how do we help Yelm? I mean, that's probably really the big question that everyone has. You know, we have some things listed here that we want economic development and growth. We network constantly. I know many of you have come to some of our events. And I used to kind of personally, I used to frown on networking, to be honest. I always thought, you know, like, you're going to talk for hours and achieve nothing, but that's not true. Obviously, some of you know me, and that's the exact opposite. You build so many connections, you learn so much about people, and you can help people. That's always my personal goal, and that's kind of the goal of the chamber. With this particular project, which we'll get to in just a moment, we're actually going to try to partner with FFA to kind of help with some of the landscaping and some of the work that needs to be done. This is one of my favorite quotes that I actually added this, so don't tell Tina, Joe, I haven't told her yet. I added her slide. Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. And to me, that's kind of the heart of the chamber. You know, we want businesses to grow, we want businesses to make money, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose, but it goes beyond that a little bit more, and we want to build the community and help people. So next slide, please. So here's our sort of our subject here. And to be honest, I don't know how many of you have driven by that sign and didn't even notice it was there. Is there anybody? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I walk by it and I don't notice it. 3/4 of the time, and I walk right in front of it.
Yeah, so yeah, our need's very specific, and I don't want to say small, but value-wise, I think it's a lot less than some of the others here. But it's simply to spruce it up, make it a little nicer, so that when Josh does walk by it, he actually stops and looks at the flowers. So really, that's all we're asking for, a new paint job. Our logo is actually, it's an old, I don't know what point it changed, but it is our old logo, so we'd like to update that. And at bare minimum, obviously, the ground, next slide, please. The ground is pretty bad, so we'd like to kind of fix that up and do some landscaping there. And really, that's pretty much it. Next slide, please. I mean, what the sign does, obviously, it could bring more value to that area. That's kind of you've got Furley's on one side, but the left side of that road, if you're coming into town, is pretty bare and naked. And so we'd like to sort of make it a little bit better. And we advertise for all the businesses on those signs as well, anyone who's part of the chamber. And your eye never really goes in that direction. So I think by sprucing it up a little bit, that may help with that. Next slide, please. So the request is just, $5,000 is what she had put together. We'll take really any amount at basis. We'd like probably about 2,000 to do landscaping and things like that. I don't know if that's different than what you have or not, but we'll take any amount to kind of help spruce it out a little bit. Next slide, please. Of course, one of the questions was if we adhere to any guidelines. We absolutely will. I know that many of you are in the chamber and even on the chamber board, so we could always create a partnership there and you guys could make sure that everything was done accordingly. But obviously we would follow those guidelines. Next slide, please. That's pretty much it. I like to end with this quote here. Strong communities are built on the foundation of active involvement, where businesses not only thrive, but also contribute to the well-being and vibrancy of the areas they serve. And that's, I think, very similar to what everyone here is trying to do. So appreciate it. Any questions? I'll do my best to answer.
And this is just confusion for me right now. I remember, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, I'd asked the question in reference to that piece of property because it was stated that that property is not owned by the chamber, but is owned by the city, and the chamber has the sign there. From the way you described this, it was like you have that whole thing.
I have no idea who owns it, to be honest.
I'm just looking for clarification.
Yeah.
We can find out.
Okay.
I do not.
It's owned by Renta LLC, whoever that is. Renta LLC.
Okay. As I said,
I know Cody would do.
We shouldn't help them, that the city should just step in
step in and make it into a small park, make it into a little sitting park.
Just clarifying.
Yes, that's what I wanted to find.
Cody?
We did have an agreement with the chamber when I came on, that before I came on, that we were maintaining the landscaping around it. That was, I don't know who made that agreement or what happened, but the city was maintaining the landscaping around it for a long period of time. And that was just an agreement that was told to me when I got there as the director. So.
Should we go back to that slide? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Selection of that piece of property was that it was donated to the chamber because it was too small to do anything with, was I think the marketing they approached the council with on that, back when that sign was put in. And I believe that's, if memory serves correctly, that's what happened in that situation. That land was too small to develop. So the chamber showed up and said, hey, you guys want it, we'll take that and we'll put a sign on it. And you did.
Sure, I don't know who owns it to be completely, I can find out.
It was put up when I was still
Yeah.
in school. 2004, 2005, is that about right? It's about that time frame.
I don't think it's that old, 2004, is it really?
I don't believe so, because I believe that showed up when I was.
Well, you're a little bit older than me. I thought it was put up 5 years ago, so.
Like I said, I walk by it all the time and I see it.
I mean, if it's been there that long, that's kind of case in point. I don't know who owns it, but
They're long enough.
it needs to be done.
One die.
I believe the signage is that's what the chamber, owns, but not necessarily the property. As Cody was speaking about who owns the property, and we just have a permission to use it as advertising. So, yeah, it's not chamber owned, but it is upkept. So it's not chamber owned, it's upkept by the city. But yet we have to ask for money to spruce it up.
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, keep it. We just mow it. We just go and mow it. We don't do any other bush or maintenance of the upkeep of all those bushes. I know the bushes got removed a long time ago with the executive director's request, those back bushes, because they were overgrowing onto it and we were like, we're not maintaining them. So, yeah.
And I believe there's no water there either, if I'm not well, that's
Set up. Cody, can you mow my grass?
Cody, do we got reclaimed there?
There is a reclaimed land that runs by there, but we'd have to tie it. It'd be a lot of money for a small area to reclaim line. It could be done, but a lot of money for a small area to tie and reclaim.
He was talking about bringing attention to that corner, and I think that, irrigation and turning it green would probably, considering the rest of the town's brown, I suppose that would probably draw some attention to it.
Just enough for Josh to know.
We'll plant some lilies.
I know it's everybody will.
I like it, Cody. Draw it up.
Mayor, can we get clarification of exactly, I'm curious on how big that lot is and who actually owns it. As I said, because a few years ago, I brought the question up because of possible conflict of interest with somebody, and the statement was made that the city pays a little bit to help maintain and everything, and the chambers actually pays the electric, everything else that goes there. And so now with the fact that somebody else owns the property, chamber has a sign on it, and we're mowing it, we'll get the ownership portion.
We will look into it.
Okay.
I'll say, you got your computer, if you open that up, the Show Me Everything map on Thurston County, it'll tell you in 5 minutes, you can have that information.
It'll probably tell us rent to LLC.
It'll tell you it's the LLC. If you're unfamiliar with the Show Me Everything map, you should familiarize yourself with it. It's a great tool.
All right, any other questions that I don't know the answer to?
Thank you for your perspective.
Thanks, y'all. All right, moving on, budget 101 presentation.
If you guys don't ask me a question, my feelings are gonna be hurt. So. We're gonna start out with just our basic budget 101 presentation. A few of you saw this a few years ago. So it might just be a little review. And then we'll get into some revenue projections. Of course, start out with our mission statement is to provide essential public services and infrastructure to keep Yelm a desirable place to live, work, and learn. And our vision is to make the city of Yelm a healthy, happy home for all with safe neighborhoods and schools, sustainable, cost-effective public infrastructure, strong, diverse economy, vibrant public places with an enduring connection to our history, and a best-run government. So Thank you. So budget 101. So we are on a biennial budget, a 2-year budget, as you all know. And some people in the finance world say it's like painting a bridge because it takes a lot of skill and discipline. It's a balancing act every time, requires a lot of teamwork. We can always use more resources. Everybody has opinions on what to do with the limited resources that we have. And everybody is watching what we're doing. So, and it feels like just when we get done with the budget, then we're starting to think about the next year, right? So it's an ongoing process. So just some of the terminology that we use, when we say appropriation, what we're talking about is expenses, expenditures, what we're going to spend. Our revenues, we don't appropriate those. Right, they're revenues, we project them or we estimate them, but we never say that we appropriate revenues. We estimate our revenues and we budget for those estimations. As you know, when we pass our budget, we pass it with a budget ordinance. Then during the year, if we want to amend that original budget, we come to you with a budget amendment, which is also in an ordinance. We never change the budget unless we bring it to council in an ordinance. And all the directors can tell you because they'll come, Cody will walk by my office and say, oh, I need 90,000 for Longmire. And I immediately say, send it to me in writing. If I don't have something in writing, I'm not putting it in an amendment, right?
Right.
So when we talk about the budget, we talk about the original budget, which is the first ordinance that we passed, or the amended budget. So in this biennium that we're currently in, we are working on an amended budget because we've passed the original ordinance and then we've amended it 3 or 4 times at this point. So we're working off an amended budget at this point. So when we do the 25-26 budget, when we start this process this fall, we are working towards adopting the original 25-26 budget ordinance. So it won't be an amended, it's going to be the original.
Is it common to have so many amendments throughout the year?
Yes. Some cities do an amendment every month, but I find that we don't need that. We don't have enough. You know, we do pretty good at setting the original budget. And so we maybe do 2 to 3 amendments a year. And they're, you know, some of them are, the first one at the beginning of the year is usually the biggest one because we've closed the previous year. So we have our solid known numbers for the previous year. So that first budget amendment is usually pretty long. And after that, they're pretty short. So I think this city does a fairly good job of not having to do several amendments. And there's 2 sections of the budget. We say there's the operating section and then we say there's the capital section. So the operating section is our salaries, our benefits, supplies, services, the things that we need to run our daily operations. And then the capital piece those are the big projects like the WRF upgrade or the one-way couplet or big projects are capital. And those usually have their own funding mechanisms, whether that's grants. A lot of our capital is funded through grants. Some of them are paid for through loans. We have impact fees. Those are other monies that are for specific uses only. So those are the 2 main sections of our budgets. So really the budget is our roadmap of how we're going to conduct business throughout the year. It's what we use as our guide. We try very hard not to spend one-time money for ongoing expenses. And what I mean by that, a salary and benefits, those are ongoing expenses, right? We pay those expenses every month. One-time money is one-time money is maybe, like when the school district did a big remodel, we might have got like $100,000 bump in our sales tax money. That's not going to happen every month, but it happened that one time. So we want to be sure when we budget our operating expenses that those are paid for with ongoing monies. Do you have a question?
I was just gonna say, would a good example be like when you get a grant funding for a law enforcement, can be used for anything, be used to hire a new officer or purchase equipment. It's better to use that one-time fund to buy the equipment, not the officer, because then
Right.
next year we're not getting that grant again, and now we have to put that into the budget.
Now you're dipping into your general fund to pay for that position. So that's exactly right. So when we're budgeting, you'll see us, we really try hard to make sure that our operating expenditures that we're requesting are equal to or less than our operating revenues. So our operating revenues are the revenues that we know are coming in every month, like property tax and sales tax, and utility taxes and user fees on the utilities. Those are all operating revenues. We're getting those revenues every month. They're easy to estimate because we have history on those. We know our, the size of our community and such. So all of our operating expenditures, we want to bring those into equal or less than those operating revenues. In all of our funds, our main funds, our general fund, all of our main utility funds, our lodging tax funds, we maintain reserves. I believe in the general fund, we have a 20% reserve, which that means that we set aside 20% of our operating expenditures. We set aside that amount of money to make sure that if, the economy goes sideways, we have that money to continue to pay our operating expenses. Yes.
I'm curious, what established that 20%?
So we don't have a policy, which is something I keep saying we need to establish that in the policy. It's been adopted in the budget. The council that adopted this last biennium budget, they adopted it at 20%. GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association for, nationwide, their recommendation is at least 16%, which would be about 2 months of operations. So we're setting aside a little over 2 months of operations.
So it's based off of what the feds are recommending.
It's not the federal government, it's just a national association of government accountants, so to speak. So
based off of a national organizations.
And if you think about it, if say that just everything goes sideways and our revenues stop coming in, it'd probably take us a few months to figure out what's our new game plan. So within that 2 months, we can continue to pay those critical bills until we get that new plan in place.
Do you believe the 20% would be sufficient, or do you think it's something we should consider upping to?
I think it's sufficient in our general fund. I think we're a little ahead of most cities our size. I do want to see us put in writing that not only for the general fund, but also for the utility funds, because the utilities, they have operations and they also have capital needs. Our equipment rental funds, we have reserves in all those funds, but we haven't really put
90 days for utilities.
Yeah, we haven't, it's not like in a document. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So of course, when we're doing our budget, we try and fund the highest priority services first, public safety, infrastructure, the personnel carrying out all of the mission and vision of the cities. So we try not to appropriate outside of this budget process. A few times we've come to council and said, hey, we've got something we need to fix right away. Can we have your approval? It's like an emergency. It's not in the budget yet because we haven't been able to do a budget amendment, but we have to do this expenditure. And state law does allow us that emergency situation. but those are very rare. Very rare, so. Next slide. So like I said before, compliance with the budget is at the ordinance level. So we adopt our, every fund in the city is adopted through the ordinance level. But as an organization, we look at compliance within the department level. So in the general fund, the finance department, we stay within the finance portion of the general fund. Police stay within their portion. So we do try and stick to the department level in the general fund, but we do adopt at the overall fund level. And like I said before, has to be appropriated or we're not going to spend it. And we need a budget balance. So when the budget's not in balance, when our revenues and our expenditures don't line up, we either need to decrease our expenditures. We need to somehow figure out how to increase revenues, which is very difficult, or we bite into fund balance, which we try not to do. We definitely don't want to use fund balance for daily operations. We can use it for one-time purchases. Say we want to purchase a piece of property and we have adequate reserves. Council could decide, let's use some of that one-time money to purchase that land. But again, it's all approved through council before we were to do any of that. So during the budget process, we like to receive input from the community. We want to identify what services we want to provide to the public, and we really look at council to tell us what are the things that you want us to be focused on. What projects do you want us to be focused on? We try our hardest to estimate costs for the projects that come forward. We try and be creative with finding funding for the projects that the city wants to do. And I've said it a few times, but we try to use one-time money for one-time purposes. When the budget's not in balance, we have to make adjustments to make it balance. So that is it's the process that we're going to go through in these next few months. So on the department level, what they do when their part in the budget is to identify expenditures related to the proposed services that we're wanting to provide, identify revenues that are specific to programs. We ask the departments to kind of tell their story. They'll come forward and they will tell you what accomplishments they've done in this current biennium, but they will also bring forward projects that they would like to do in the next biennium. They may talk about their staffing levels or whatever needs they have within their department. But each department, we've planned for each department to do a presentation to council to kind of talk about their departments. And we'll be bringing that later on. Go ahead. So what is the finance department's role in the whole budget? A big part of it is projecting revenues in the general fund. That can be a little tricky. We look at historical information to kind of project out future revenues. Sometimes we might know, hey, there's a big box retailer coming into town, so we can kind of estimate. We don't have a big box retailer coming, but if we did, I would know, okay, I can estimate X amount to be added to our general fund. So we're always looking at how do we best estimate our revenues? What things can we look at? How much growth do we expect to come in? How many new residential permits might be coming online? Are there large commercial permits coming online? So it's really just a lot of the management team talking about what's going on in the community, what do we think is going to happen in the next biennium, and what can we maybe forecast from that activity in into revenues or expenditures. Another, sorry, not done with that slide. I'll hurry up. So another thing that I do is I project the the salary and benefits for the city. As you all know, we're in negotiations with some of our employee groups, so that's a little challenging at this point, is to figure out where those will land and how that will look in that next budget. So, so that's a big piece that I'm working on. I develop all the debt service budgets that go forward. So we have bonds and loans we have to make payments on. So I figure out, okay, what are those payments going to be? And, you know, where's the monies to make those payments and get those all lined up? And then it's just it's a big balancing act of pulling all those revenues and estimates into one big happy document and bringing it to council. So it's a huge balancing act. And I'm not going to say the first you know, preliminary budget that we bring forward, it will change because it's a fluid document until we adopt it at the council level at the end of November. So we're going to be working our best to hone in those estimates of revenues and projections on expenses through this entire process. And honestly, we'll spend most of our time talking about the general fund. So next slide. Okay, so second part of this is just a real quick look at our revenue trends. We are looking at year-end estimates for 2024. This is just a snapshot. You've all seen this before of the general fund and what the revenues are in the general fund. We did add the public safety sales tax to this graph. We expect to get about 200,000 by the end of this year. And then next year, we think it's going to be about 400,000. So that will go directly to supporting public safety. You do the next slide. So property tax, we are not planning on taking the 1% increase, but it will, because of the new construction coming on to the assessment rolls, our property tax will go up a little bit. We did get some preliminary numbers already from Thurston County. Just looking at that, I think it's going to come out to about $1,875,000. Slide. So modest growth in sales tax increases. We budgeted, I think it was like 2,800,000 for 2024. I think we're going to get about just over 3 million by the end of 2024. So we're going to receive more than we budgeted in 2024. And I think we'll be at about 3.15 in 2025 on the sales tax. And that does not include the public safety money. Next slide. Utility and B&O taxes are interesting. On the utility taxes, we have seen a decline when it comes to cable and phone utility taxes, because I think people are just changing their cable and their phone and that sort of thing. But the other, you know, electricity, water, sewer, those things are pretty stable. Not a whole lot of growth in the utility taxes, a little bit of growth in the B&O, just because we seem to be adding more businesses into the community.
Stephanie, I was noticing that pie chart, and it just seemed to me that the three major revenue generators was the retail is the biggest one, and then the utility and the property. That's over 50% of the revenue of the city, and then the rest of it's smaller increments. But that right there is your main
majority.
Okay.
The general fund.
Right, of the general. Yeah.
Next slide. Other general fund revenues, we see fluctuations in these. License and permits and charges for services. Those really just depend on what's going on in the building world. All the other categories within those are pretty stable. Intergovernmental revenue is another one that's just, it fluctuates. It depends on how many grants we're going to receive. We do get some state entitlement monies to support public safety that's pretty stable. We can estimate those pretty accurately, but the grants are up and down every year. And then like I said, the construction activity, it just kind of fluctuates. So
I'm curious about the fines and penalties. Did we just cap it at 35,000 in 2022?
those majority of that, about 30,000, we budget from the court, and it's just, that's about all, it averages out to about that much. It doesn't seem to fluctuate one way or the other in any significant way. So.
To be clear, we don't collect all the fines
No.
from my speeding ticket. The majority of that goes to the state. We get a small percentage.
Very small percentage. Yeah.
But a consistent budget of 35,000 from 22 to 25.
Right.
That's interesting.
All right.
This is a very small percentage again that we're getting from the state. We could write, thousands of more tickets and it would just go up slightly.
Yeah. And then this is just a snapshot of all the other funds within the city. This includes the utility funds, our special revenue funds, equipment rental projects, that sort of thing. Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I'm curious why we're sending all of our revenue from our officers doing their jobs to the state.
It's just state policy. It's similar like liquor.
Policy.
Yeah, it's good. They set the laws though.
It's state law, yeah.
Yeah, so they pass it down similar to revenue sharing for like liquor. There's a small percentage that they share and it varies.
I mean, I can understand liquor, but these are our officers out there working, that we, the citizens of Yelm are paying for.
Oh, I agree.
So
Sure like to hear what their explanation on that is.
I can kind of give you some insight on that. I don't know how they come up with the percentages that they get, but when you when somebody pays like a ticket, it depends on the type of ticket, but some of that money goes to support Washington State Patrol highways. Some of it goes to support the statewide court system. It goes to toxicology labs. It goes to trauma care. It goes to school zone safety. I mean, there's probably 15 different categories that one fine that somebody may pay at our counter goes to all these different categories split out to the state.
And I understand that. I guess my overall big question is why?
Why?
Why? I mean, we're paying all these fees to be involved with all these different organizations. For example, TCOM. We pay for them to handle our 911 services, our phone services, and things like that. So it just seems like somewhere along the line, somebody, by appearance, has pulled a fast one on the smaller on our communities on the state level, saying, "Hey, you guys, here's a little thanks for doing our work for us. Go ahead and continue to have your citizens pay for your officers and all of your infrastructure that's dealing with your law enforcement. And here's a kick in the butt to help you." To help you afford all that. It just seems like the motivation for our law enforcement to do their jobs would be a little bit kind of perhaps limited in the aspect that they realize that, no matter, as you mentioned, we could write more tickets, but ultimately we're still getting pennies on the dollar for what.
Right. It's not, you'll never make anything more than pennies on public safety in court. It's just not going to happen.
And our officers don't write tickets just to make money or anything.
No, I understand that, but I think that, basically, it's like the intercity transit system, not charging people to use their system because, well, it wasn't paying for it anyway, so we're just gonna eliminate that charge and the effort that people might put in to pay that.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable on that one. I'm sure Brian might want to say something, but yeah, it's all, I would love to have the revenue sharing higher for us for local municipalities. And oftentimes every year we fight for higher, and that's, city lobbyists fight for higher amounts, larger amounts for liquor revenue, especially liquor, because it fluctuates. And when, the state needs more money in a certain pot, that's who they sweep oftentimes first. And so we see less and less. But yeah, it's a fight that we do every year, every session.
Understood.
I agree though. Yeah, we should get a larger.
I agree.
portion.
It frustrates me every month when I sign off on that check.
Thanks for all your hard work.
I think that's it. Oh, budget calendar. So tonight we're going over this, budget 101 and year-end estimates. October 1st, we'll start the department budget presentations. And we'll carry over to October 8th for those presentations. And then October 8th, we'll also have a preliminary budget presentation for you. Slide. Our first of two public hearings, one on the ad valorem tax and the other on the preliminary budget, will happen October 22nd. And we will also discuss capital budget on that day. November 8th, if needed, we can have more budget discussions. And then on November 26th, we'll have the second series of public hearings on the ad valorem tax and preliminary budget. And if everybody's happy, we will pass the biennial budget that night. We have to pass the ad valorem tax by the end of November per state guidelines. Per state guidelines, we have until December 31st to actually pass the biennial budget, and that should be 25-26. I just noticed that. And I sent this to you for review.
Couldn't catch everything.
Wow. He reviewed this and the only thing he did is god awful smiley thing. Yeah. Anyways, any questions?
Thank you, Stefan.
You're welcome.
Mayor, you have something to tell us?
The only thing I have to add, well, kind of related to the budget process, I will be reaching out to different all the council members to have some one-on-ones and understand your priorities for this upcoming budget. I'll be looking to do that here in the next couple of weeks. So look for a text or a call from me and we'll figure out a time where we can sit down and not only that, but just talk in general about what other priorities you might have as a council member and how we can try to make you successful as you can as a council member. So that's all I've got. And the other thing, I guess,
Anytime there's a mention of development, you always hear citizens complain about traffic. And so what I've seen in a lot of people's reactions is more of a feeling based and not fact based. It would be nice if we could get an education on how traffic studies are done in comparison to development. Because I'm sure, I have assumptions that things are done, but that might be true, might not. It would be nice if we get an education like, okay, when a developer wants to come in and build so many houses, how does, what do they have to go through? What's looked at? How's traffic impacted? I assume there's studies and flows and all that stuff in regards, there's facts to take in consideration, what's considered bad traffic, what's considered good traffic, what's considered, acceptable. And all those different, metrics that are looked at, it would be nice, if we can get education on that so we know, that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds like something. Is that what some council would want to see? Other council members? Show of knowledge?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
If you, and I'm sure that's one of the things he asked for, but I just want to clarify, can we see either every 5 years what has, through those studies, what has increased? Because if we all of a sudden are able to show that, hey, the traffic from 2015 is still the same traffic as 2020, and yet we've improved the roads, we've done all these things.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to be able to show that, we are making those improvements.
I think we can put some, I say this we loosely because it's going to be Cody and his team. But yeah, we'll chat and put our heads together, see what we can put up. We'll get that in the next few, we'll give them some time, but we'll put it on the schedule though. Yeah.
Cody, I got something for you. I got a lot of something for you. I'll send you my slideshow. A lot of potholes. I got a request from the business owners on the other side of town here, their alley with the multiple potholes on top of the gas line. They're concerned because there's dirt and gravel there. So that's something we could take a look at sooner. But also the Five Corners roundabout. I still want to see the cost comparison of having an actual Five Corners and then the other roundabout, like a honest to God, what it costs to buy those houses, everything else, whatever property we need kind of thing.
That might be a little more trickier, but we'll see if there's past, because I'm sure there was some analysis on it, but I don't know if those are, if we have those, but.
Yeah, the cost analysis isn't really because it's state funded, right? The state's doing it, so it's whatever they deem that we can do. So yeah, I could give you a cost analysis, but the state doesn't care. Right. Yeah, cost differences. Because it's all their money going, they're going to say which one they.
You're looking for numbers, a document or something.
Right, so like the second roundabout's going to cost us 2.5, but if we just did a 5 corners roundabout, it's going to cost us 1.2 or something like that.
You can try to figure something out.
Yeah, wasn't it because I thought, that was next because of traffic flow, the models.
There's two things. One is models. I'll come up there.
It wasn't this cost, it was more of the.
So there's modeling of roundabouts, how they work, modeling of how the Morris Road Bald Hills intersection would work with those two roundabouts at the same time. So not just cost, but they don't. I'm not saying the state doesn't care about cost, but that was the least important factor. They needed to work and function. So we have to propose something that works and functions, and they had to buy off on it. So when we presented the three options, the one they bought off on was the single lane roundabout. We tried to sell them on 2-lane roundabout. And so what it'll be is it'll be a single lane initially with a second lane blocked off. So when we grow and need that second lane, they'll just automatically turn into a second lane. The next lift is going to be getting them to pay for our roundabout, that Morris Road one, because one cannot function without the other. And if without both of them, they stop functioning, you get backup. So that's the hope is we're going to meet with them in late September, Barkus and WSDOT to try to get funding for that second roundabout.
And so I would assume that a traffic impact analysis has already been.
Huge one. Yeah, parametrics did, over the course of 6 months.
To be successful with the.
Yeah, all three options work, but they work at varying degrees. So there's a single lane, double lane, and then the 5 corners. All work at varying degrees, but there's difference. Right away, the part that slows down the project more than anything else is right away acquisition. The more property you take, the longer the process takes. So the roundabout is a least amount of property acquisition, and the most effective modeling. Whereas the Five Corners one requires a lot of roundabout or a lot of right-of-way acquisition, which complicates the project, and the modeling wasn't as good because you have two one-ways that create a one-way off and a one-way on to Bald Hills, and people have to do some maneuvering to get back to where they want to go. So the double roundabout was what was most effective for people that get paid millions to do traffic engineering.
Was the single roundabout big enough for the semis that we need?
It's so single lane roundabout. So it's a double lane roundabout, but one lane we blocked off. So one lane, it's striped off. I think I showed you the models. One lane we striped off.
They're the big ones?
Yeah, they can 100% go there. It's a double lane roundabout. But the issue is when you have not enough traffic, a double lane roundabout causes confusion. When more traffic increases, we'll need to turn it into a double lane roundabout. So we didn't want to build it as a one lane. So it'll be a 2-lane roundabout with one lane blocked off. Does that make sense?
Free mobility was definitely looked at for semis at 100.
Yeah, it is 100. Yeah, it's 100% transition. Semis can go through it. So.
Few questions.
Yeah.
First of all, clarification. My understanding is the state of Washington said, hey, Yelm, you guys want this project? If you do, here you go. Secondly, the only, other than maybe over at the event that I wasn't in town for, the only thing that I've seen is this double roundabout, the only, pictures that we've seen is this double roundabout. It just seems like, it just seems like even with what you're saying there, well, we're going to start out with a single until traffic gets worse. Oh, what does that mean exactly? Because I can tell you, it's not like just on certain times. It's every day now. We've got, I sit in my restaurant and watch out the window and see traffic just stopped every day. So I'm curious what level of worse it needs to reach before we open that up to a double roundabout, because that just seems crazy to me. And I think we need to take into consideration, we've got an example of what happens when we build a roundabout that's too small. It's the one coming into town. They made some choices there that still, to this day, I don't understand why they would eliminate a nice, easy swoop turn into the existing road into pushing it all into a compact situation that, you've been here, you've seen people have landed on that thing more than one time. And I don't understand, because you guys keep saying, well, the state of Washington says that this is what they said that they would agree to. But I thought the project was ours. I thought that they didn't have the resources or time to get it done. So they were giving us the option of completing this thing. So I just don't understand. Is it our project or is it their project?
It's their project. We're doing it. So it's in city limits. We took it on because they didn't have the time to do it. They gave us a initial design of the roundabout. They gave all 3 jurisdictions a design of the roundabout they wanted. Ours was a little more fleshed out. They actually had lanes, the acreage, how much right it would be taken. So we had to take that design into account when we did our design for it. We modeled a 5-lane roundabout because when I was a kid, I lived on Morris Road. And I was like, 5 Corners was the best thing ever. I remember it being the coolest thing ever, even though I almost got hit by cars every day walking to AM PM. But it was something where I was like, we should look at it. So we added that as a concept look where it wasn't even going to be looked at before. When it came out and penciled out, it didn't work, even though as much as I wanted to, because I grew up on Morris Road, I wanted it to work. The double lane was what they bought off on. And single lane with a double lane feature. So we had to push to get a double lane roundabout in there so that we could go. And traffic, worse isn't the right word, it's volume. So the amount of cars traveling through that have to reach a certain peak. And this is traffic engineers with roundabouts. They built thousands of roundabouts. If you have under a certain amount of traffic, a double roundabout causes more issues and it solves. So you start with a single lane and you can expand to the double lane when volume gets higher. Because right now, if you've been on, like I have, the reservation where they have a double lane roundabout, people will cross in and out of the roundabout going into each lane because there's not enough volume of traffic to prevent them from doing it. So when the volume of traffic increases, now you have people going where they should be so they don't cross in and out of roundabout lanes.
Well, you're stating this as if we don't have an example of this working. The roundabout it's either 5 or 6 right there where Pacific Avenue and Lacey Boulevard merge into one, into a 4-lane instead of 4 lanes each direction. It works just fine. Never seen an incident there. People get confused, but they get confused at the roundabout in the road.
I completely agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that when even me who wanted it, when you see the roundabout, we have the 5-lane. I could show you the 5-corner roundabout that we created because I thought it would work. With how it works and with Emerald Car Care right there and everything around it, you have a single lane going in and a single lane going out to Morris Road. So you have one way in, one way out. And the confusion we created with people trying to drive is already, I could tell would be bad. Plus people having to swing around to get over to where they want to go. Whereas a double lane, if I want to go Tractor Supply, I just swing around the roundabout. I don't have to go down this one way, up this one way and back over to Tractor Supply. So because of how it lined out, it wouldn't work. And I know what you're thinking, we'll just add extra lanes to it. There's not enough room there to add all the lanes you're thinking. You'd have to get rid of something and someone would lose access, either Emerald Car Care or Tractors Flight, one of them would lose access if you do the five lane like you're thinking. But I can show you the model, we can go through it, I can show you why, because I was on the same boat you were.
So since we're working on somebody else's project, this isn't necessarily a collaboration. It's more of, we have to do things according to some guidelines and stipulations of the state.
Correct, and we have a little bit of pushback, like we were able to push them to the two, like we're gonna do a 2-lane because eventually we're gonna need the second lane. Even though like, you're gonna build a 1 lane, you don't need 2 lanes right now. We will eventually need 2 lanes. Let us build 2 lanes and we'll just stripe 1 lane off. So we have a little bit of fluctuation, but we can't totally change the project. Like we can go, hey, we're just gonna build an under tunnel bridge or, you know.
It's not our project.
Correct, we're just going to accelerate it.
Okay. That's rough.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cody.
Sorry, I know, I trust me, I want back in the back. So. On memory.
Sketch anywhere on the website?
Yeah, it's under we have a project page. You can see the double roundabout. It also, the owner of the AMPM I gave him a poster of it, so he has it up in AMPM right there because he's really excited about it. So you can see it there or go to our website under project and it has all the details of that project and FAQs like you guys asked.
At all? Anybody else? No?
Quite good, but I'm good.
He's good.
He'll send you his PowerPoint.
Yeah. All right, well then, me.
It's not our project. Change, you didn't do it. That was the whole excitement.
I think it's a